got an amendment that's going to be coming forward?
Mr. Chairman, I will not offer my amendment for a vote.
Thank you. So I'm handing the gavel off to Vice Chair.
House Bill 578, do we have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion, ought to pass on 578.
Okay, we have a motion on to pass 578.
Excuse me a minute, is this the one with the, that needs the amendment?
We
No.
dropped it.
Thank you for getting copies.
We don't need,
All right, wait a minute, just 1 minute, because she's calling over to get another copy of the
Just tell her
amendment.
not to,
All
because
right,
we're not
hold
going
on.
to deal with it.
I now have 10 copies of the amendment.
Don't need it now.
We're not using it. Don't ask questions, Judy.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Representative Frazier?
Yes, I'm gonna have to vote
Is there a second on that?
Yes. Representative Cordelli, second. Representative Frazier?
Yes, I'm going to have to vote no on this, on ought to pass, because I understand the principle of it, is to make a statement to the federal government, but handing down unfunded mandates, but I have in my notes that we, special ed teachers, just one of the reasons for opposing this is that special ed teachers are funded by the federal government, their jobs will be wiped out. I don't think the state is ready to make up for the teachers we lose by passing this bill. That for that and a number of reasons I have to, that I won't go into the end of this time, I oppose this bill.
Any further discussion? Yes,
I
Representative.
too, Mr. Chair, thank you. I too am totally opposed to this bill. I think it carries a myriad of complicated issues to both the State Board of Education, but also to local school districts. And I think we need to walk with caution when we make bold, far-reaching pieces of legislation that can negatively impact situations that we don't even have any understanding of how it will impact them. So therefore, I will be voting no on this piece of
Thank
legislation.
you. Any further discussion? Yes, Representative Grenier.
If you take everything else aside and just read, the state board shall not adopt rules that require a statewide assessment program which is not fully paid by federal funds, it's incongruous to me to support that. All of this other thing we can argue about whether it directly mandates curriculum or it indirectly mandates instruction. That's true of any testing. It doesn't matter whether it's Common Core. Obviously, if you're going to be tested in something, you have to have curriculum. So I co-sponsored this with some hope that we could generate concern and discussion, but I would consider it irresponsible on my part, given the oath of office I took to vote for this.
Representative Cordelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on the good representative's comments, I share that this bill will generate discussion and bring out concerns, and for that reason I will support it. I think they are discussions that we need to have on the floor of the House, that this legislature needs to take a stand and say, we're tired of this. And that I think it's a worthwhile effort, and for that reason, I will support the ought to pass.
Any further discussion? And I will, as to make a motion, I feel that we have a number of federally mandated programs, be it curriculum, instruction, or assessment, that we're doing it, the assessment, because of the state, but also federal, to be compliant with ESEA. And we're not being funded totally to do that by the feds. Look at special education costs, 40% versus told, you get 17%. And in regard to curriculum, we have to develop a curriculum for IDEA. It's all tied together. And somewhere along the way, we need to have this statement put out there to the public. We're tired of the federal government deciding in the Beltway, this is what you're gonna have to do, folks, and you figure out how to tax your taxpayers to get the money. I just think the principle is worth our discussion and communicating to the public that we're fed up.
Do you have examples of federally mandated curriculum and method of instruction that have been handed down by the federal government?
I think IDEA is a good one.
Well, IDEA is a principle that, tells states that children with special needs deserve,
Well,
to be educated.
to respond then, there's also
But it
other
doesn't
programs.
prescribe the curriculum for those children. It doesn't prescribe the methods by which those children will be.
Well, you
I
can look
just
at the
wondered if this is-
ESEA Title I,
No, I worked there for 16 years, so I know.
and when you hire a person in your schools to fill those programs as a teacher, and they're on a continuing contract, and all of a sudden you cut back, which the feds do on their dollars which come down, you are left with the difference of paying that tab. So, you know, and the Title I stipulates what you can do with that those monies in terms of your staff and curriculum, and you're not to supplant, you have to, you know, supplement that program. So it does specify how you're going to address the curriculum. Yes, Representative.
Mr. Chair, with all due respect, I would caution this body against voting for this piece of legislation. It has broad-ranging implications. For example, to the taxpayers in local communities. Frequently, as an assistant superintendent who managed all of these federal grants, in addition to our local school budget, I was able to do so many things to support the needs of children because I used local funds in addition to the federal funds, and I was able to far reach my ability to provide in-depth services to many children. I would like personally to see a fiscal impact statement that would be attached to this piece of legislation in terms of what it would look like at the local school district. And one other piece of information that I just want to, in direct response to your comment about when the federal funds stop, that happens. I agree, and it's very difficult. However, that said, when the federal funds are reduced, there is usually a period of 2 to 3 or 4 years that the Department of Ed or Health and Human Services specifies to local school districts about the reduction in those dollars in order that local school districts can plan for that. So I just want to caution you all in terms of what this might do to your local school communities and the budgets with which you work. Thank you.
Well, it's Representative Alcott.
Representative Adams, and then Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we accepted funds for ARA, for example, we hired all sorts of personnel, we bought equipment. Those funds dried up. We still were required, because we got used to having that equipment, got used to having those personnel that were funded by those ARA funds. We were required as a school district, at least my district, funding that. So that, by accepting that federal money, accepting those additional resources to our districts, we essentially, tied our hands and the ability to go forward and actually then reduce what was given to us because we had free money, for federal money, was just about impossible. So when you keep accepting these federal funds, you keep growing your infrastructure, keep growing your bureaucracies as well, along with it, we tie our hands later on when those federal funds dry up. And we're gonna see it also, in numerous other programs. I think this at least gets this conversation, as Representative Ladd said, on the floor. It gets people aware of really what strings come with federal money and then what the repercussions are to the local taxpayer. And Representative Keith, I don't believe we're ever gonna roll back special education to the times where we warehoused individuals in state schools and such like that, you know, those days are gone, I believe. So for that, I would urge, you know, our committee to pass this bill, bring it to the floor, and let a really good discussion begin.
Representative Guy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the last analysis, my understanding is, and again, I worked with Title I for 16 years, it was up to every single district and every single school board as to whether or not they wanted to accept Title I monies. That was an agreement that had to be signed by the school board in order to accept those monies. And not every school district did. So the money was available, it was made available, there were certain guidelines around it. It was to be used for educationally disadvantaged children, and the formula was based on a particular population. And districts were informed of that, but in the last analysis, they had to sign to agree to take that money.
I have one more statement.
Representative Holt and then Representative Glass.
You can have the last word. I feel like this is a little bit contradictory compared to, we approved a bill, I think almost unanimously the other day, about reducing statewide assessments, doing 4th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade, because we weren't fully funded. And so as a state, we felt that we had the right to dictate that, and I feel like that was a good decision, and that's something that we're gonna take to the floor and advocate for. But now we're saying we shouldn't do a statewide assessment because we're not fully funded. So it seems like we're contradicting ourselves. Do we want full funding, or would we rather not have funding and be in control? So,
Representative Glass?
The assessments which we do, I think the state should be assessing based upon the needs to demonstrate, each school district to demonstrate they are performing at a level they should. That's the Claremont decision. In terms of federally mandates, we have promises coming out of Washington, D.C. And in 2016, we're going to look at the end of another promise in terms of health and human services and the extension of various medical programs which we have in our state. Who picks that tab up? We are going to pick that tab up. And why do we not have money for schoolhouses? Why do we not have proper money to make our school districts work right now? Because it's all drained out to support programs, which the feds have said it's wonderful, but there's no bucks left now. So it's time that we have this discussion, and I'd love to see the papers take it. I'd love to see it get to the folks in Washington, D.C., and start thinking responsibly in terms of what's this going to do to impact the local taxpayer. It is draining my town. The town of Piermont, just south of me, their school district budget is going up 24% this year. They can't do it. And it's because of special services. And catastrophic aid is not being reimbursed the way it should be reimbursed. It's reimbursed at the level of 70% of the entitled monies we're supposed to be receiving. We can't continue like this. We're chasing people out of their homes. I see it as a water commissioner. I'm looking at the fault on over 25% of the water bills in Haverhill. They don't have it in their pocket. So every agency, from education to health and human services, etc., needs to understand that we're going to have to go back and live within our means. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, okay. Anything that hasn't been said before, Representative Cordelli and then Representative Graham.
I would just ask, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I would just ask my fellow representatives to please support the ought to pass amendment. This is the discussion that we need to have. I'm sorry. Ought to pass. Thank you. This is a discussion that we need to have outside of this room and in the full House and elsewhere. It's, for all the reasons stated before, it's an important discussion, and I think it's one that is vital. Thank you.
Representative Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do need to make a clarification on ERA money. That was a bundle of money that was distributed all kinds of ways to stimulate the economy. That was no bait and switch. anyone who accepted that money had to know that it's not gonna continue. That if you used it to do something, you had to know it's not coming again. I think it came over 2 years, so ERA is not even in this picture. That was like a gimme to get money into local districts. It was, whether you like that program or not, that had nothing to do with programs.
Okay, I'd like to cut off discussion unless there's something really urgent.
Yeah, I have one more thing. Look at the sponsors of this bill. And there's 2 senators in the Senate, Senator Carson and Senator Reagan, also supporting this bill. Folks, this is a Republican bill.
Okay, you can go through the discussion. I'd like to go ahead and start the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This is ought to pass on House Bill 578, FN. Representative Belko?
I'm the chair, so
Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Lett?
Yes.
Representative Boone? Representative Cordelli?
Yes.
Representative Grenier?
No.
Representative Elliott?
Yes.
Representative Adams?
Yes.
Representative Cook?
yes.
Representative Moore?
Yes.
Representative Osborne?
Yes.
Representative Sullivan?
Yes.
Representative Wolf?
Nope.
Representative Guile?
No,
Representative Shaw? No. Representative Gorman?
No.
Representative Frazier? No. Representative Schmidt? No, sorry. Representative Myler?
No.
Representative Rolo?
No.
Representative Heath?
No.
Representative Sharon?
No.
Representative Balcom?
Yes.
It's 10-10. Without recommendation. Somebody got two ways.
so this is the amendment.
No,
I didn't
we
offer
never had an
him.
amendment on the floor.
All right, okay.
Is somebody gonna do a minority report?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
How is there a minority?
No.
Now
There
the-
wouldn't
It's
be
just
a-
without, but usually aren't there 2 blurbs?
But you can have
You
two
can have two
blurbs.
blurbs.
And it would be, ought to pass would be the first vote.
So you can have blurbs, or you can choose not to.
No.
Yeah, you still have one.
The minority can write a blurb.
Right, yeah.
Well, how many minority with the two?
There is no minority.
Well,
It's
not
not a
a
minority,
minority.
it's two words.
10 people voted no, and 10 people voted yes. So the yes blurb will say why they did, and the no blurb will say why they did.
Right, so why call it minority?
Well, it's not a minority.
Yeah,
And it's changed.
But the first vote will be as on.
Okay, we need to move on here. So is somebody gonna write down, Representative Guile?
Yes.
You're doing. And moving along here, we're gonna do 581. Requiring schools to continue the education of the child during the child's suspension or expulsion.
By meeting one.
Yeah, 581. Now, are there any amendments on 581? There is one amendment here. Has that been passed out before? Representative Cordelli?
No, it hasn't.
Do you have copies?
I do not, I'm not sure if I will offer this amendment, but I would like to let you know what is in the amendment for our discussion purposes. My concerns basically are two provisions of the bill that I addressed in this amendment. One is removing the sentence of line 9 in the original bill that any expulsion shall be valid.
So before we go any more discussion, I'd like to have you make a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
No, I'd like to have Representative Cordelli make a motion.
He's discussing his amendment.
No, on the bill. And then if we want to amend it, we'll do it at that time. Representative Cordelli, you're recognized for a motion.
I would move to retain.
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion made by Representative Cordelli to retain and second by Representative Wolf. Okay, now you can discuss.
Thank you. The amendment that I had been contemplating was, as I said, in relation to line 9, there was a concern. And also, I think that for someone who is over 16 years of age and is expelled for a violent incident, I do not see forcing the district to continue in education, and not just maybe for one violent incident. I know there are often times when school boards act with a zero tolerance policy that becomes a zero common sense policy. But I would also contemplate if there are multiple expulsions for the same student, possibly a series of escalating violent incidents for which they are expelled. I do not see tying the hands of the school district and forcing them to provide that ongoing education. So those are my concerns. I think there are possibly some things we can do with this bill to address those concerns. I've heard other concerns from other members as well, and so I think there are some things we can do with this bill possibly to satisfy some of those concerns.
Further discussion.
Okay, 581, I believe in it as far as the principle of the thing. In my last term, I spent a lot of time down at YDC, even though we had no Merrimack people down there. Because the kids that are down there, they really do need looking after. I was not happy with the fiscal note on this. The rationale didn't set well with me. I think retaining it, I hate to retain it for another year, but I think that's the right thing to do at this point.
Representative Bowman.
Yes, I'm pretty much saying the same thing. We do have idiot common sense going on, lack of common sense in the school district. But yeah, I think there are some issues. Yesterday I talked to VLAC people, and they do not see a problem with somebody being expelled and where it says shall not be considered in another school district, but I don't see any problem with VLAC. So that's something we might want to consider and look at. If they're doing that at home and they're not going to disrupt anything. So yeah, and the financial note, there should not be any financial note in this bill, because the bottom line says, on line 12, a school district shall continue to educate their child who is suspended or expelled from the school in a manner to be chosen by the school district. So what's financial? The problem is, if they don't do it, it's gonna might cost them more money, because they're gonna be retained, that kid coming back for another year, in some cases. So, yeah, I think retaining.
Representative Wolf.
It's just about that I completely agreed with you. The VLAX thing, I'm so glad that you said that, because I'm very concerned about our school district moving to accept a student that was expelled for a violent offense, but we would need to accept them, and sending our kids who were expelled for a very serious offense being taken into another district. So I think VLAX is a great option. I'm also concerned about the suspensions. If there is a cost to educating a student when they're suspended, because it needs to be a much more custom type of solution, and that's something that I think districts need the opportunity to take a look at. I'm a little worried about that being on the front end if we pass that on. So I'd rather retain the bill so we can work on it instead of IT only.
And go ahead, Representative.
Oh, I just wanted to throw out some figures, because when we think of suspension, we usually are thinking of middle school or high school. I asked the Department of Education to give me the numbers of children K through 3, because that's my area of interest, who were either in school suspended or out of school suspended. The total number is 798. 798 children between kindergarten and 3rd grade. 300 for in-school suspension, 498 for out-of-school suspensions. I really do feel that something needs to be done to really get to the schools, and when you see the list, the definitions of the reasons for that, it blows me away. And I think that we've really gone overboard in terms of behaviors of children. And I'll support retain, but I really think we need to act on this very quickly. I would like to
Thanks.
see us act on this.
And
very quickly.
I'll just give a couple comments on it. One, line 9, I'm not satisfied with that line being taken out of the bill. It says, any expulsion shall be valid throughout the school districts of the state. That's been struck, so you know the deal. School District A, right beside School District B, the kid, parents move to School District B, and the kid is just taken to a knife to another kid in School District A. So I think there ought to be the expulsion ought to carry over. You don't avoid your punishment by running next door and going to school. I have seen that actually happen in a district which I have. Also, I do know that when you have a manifest hearing to discuss expulsion or suspension, if you get up beyond 10, that does run into money. You oftentimes end up with somebody going to the home and providing instruction in the home. Who pays for that? Yeah, the school district does. And also in terms of the number of suspensions you have in the elementary school, well, I mean, some elementary schools are K through 3, some are K through 4, but some are also K through 8 by law. And you do know there's going to be more shenanigans going on in that junior high school level that's not good stuff, behaviors which are unacceptable. So let's make sure we're talking apples and not apples oranges. And that's very, very important. And there are behaviors which students make a choice, and they do not have the right to disrupt the education of other students in the classroom. So, are we ready for the rest of it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two thoughts on reading the act, and it concerns the word child. So if I took that word out and I said, this is an act requiring schools to continue the education of a sweet, innocent 10-year-old child who made a mistake and lost her temper one day and broke something, as opposed to reading it this way, an act requiring schools to continue the education of a 16-year-old juvenile delinquent, a troublemaker, a punk, who has a long record of misbehavior, and you want me, the taxpayer, to pay for this kid so that he can go to private school?
Okay,
With all due respect,
I'd rather not
my
see a
colleague, we are
descriptor
talking
That's why I
about-
as you just used.
Yeah.
I have a child too that's 43 years old and still a child.
Yeah, but I got more kids than you.
Well,
I got all
Could I ask,
you got a
we are
problem.
in a hurry today.
Yeah.
The sponsor of this bill has already said that she's willing to go along with the
Let's
motion.
go ahead and call the vote.
I'm sorry, with all due respect, you gave us a long soliloquy on why we should retain it, when it was totally unnecessary, because we're all ready to vote for retain, I
Yeah,
think.
I
or
think
you're
we
gonna
are,
pass
so
it.
let's go on and we'll call this vote right now. The vote, Representative Shaw,
Is to retain.
could you please call?
Retain on House Bill 581. Representative Balco?
Yes?
Representative Bone?
Yes.
Representative Cordelli?
Yes.
Representative Grenier?
Yes.
Representative Elliott?
No.
Representative Adams?
Yes.
Representative Cook?
Yes.
Representative Moore?
Yes.
Representative Osborne?
Yes.
Representative Sullivan?
Yes.
Representative Wolf?
Yes.
Representative Guile?
Yes.
Representative Shaw, yes. Representative Gorman?
No.
Representative Frazier? Did you say yes?
Yes.
Representative, he's not here today, okay. Representative Myler?
Yes.
Representative Rolo?
Yes.
Representative Heath?
Yes.
Representative Sharon?
Yes.
Representative Ladd?
Yes.
So it's 18-2.
What was the vote?
18-2.
So we're retaining that bill. Okay. Is anybody out there waiting for a specific bill that's a rep? Representative Jones, you have,
I'm free today, so I can stay.
I didn't know if you had somewhere else you had to
No, I'm enjoying listening, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on down our list then to Bill 603. Are there any amendments for 603 out there?
Yes,
One, does everybody have a copy of your amendment,
not
Representative?
yet. This way, I'll give you the.
Take a few moments when you get it to read it over because some may not have seen it. And let me know if you need a short comment.
Did you guys get it?
We need a couple, yeah.
You did? No, we didn't need it.
Thank you.
What I can do is just tell you what you will.
Oh, okay, does anybody have a problem with Representative Bowman just walking you through that amendment? Go for it.
Okay, basically, we passed HB 206 yesterday, and a lot of this amendment dealt with stuff we covered in 206. So I did, basically, the amendment deletes pretty much everything in the bill from line 1 through 23, and just amends 193C6, and puts in that, rather than a policy and all that, that was done in the previous part of the bill, because a lot of that dealt with what we had done with 206, and didn't want the two different sections of the law dealing with what we had just done with 206. And it just adds, unless such student is exempted from taking the test by his or her parent or legal guardian, and puts that in the section, and allows students to participate. And the school district shall not penalize any student for being exempted from taking a statewide assessment by his or her parent or legal guardian, nor shall the Department of Education or State Board penalize any school district for lower participation rate. A school district shall create a form to be signed by the parent or legal guardian for any student exempted from the assessment. So this just gives rights to the parent. This is being done in other states. New York, for example, is allowing this, and they're not using any federal money. And other states also have been allowing parents control of their kids.
Okay, thank you, Representative Frazier.
Okay, I just want to quickly raise 2 points. One is, I know that both Mr. Rapio and Mr. Michener pointed out problems with that this bill would raise for computing adequacy. The other thing I want to point out is that, and this is just a matter of reading, it may not, other people might not have a problem with it. And the part, the bold part near the end that starts, a school district shall not penalize any student for being exempted from taking the statewide assessment by his or her parent. Wait a minute, first I read it, I thought, wait a minute, it sounds like it's saying the parents can't penalize the child. It needs to be rewritten, so it doesn't seem to say that the parents can't penalize the child. But I assume it means that.
That's right. You're right, it isn't. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions? Representative Wolf.
So does this amendment replace the entire
Yes.
bill? Okay, so this is the new bill, the
Right.
bill, the amendments, okay.
Well, back on the grammar, I mean, it's being exempted from taking the statewide parent, but it's exempted by his or her parent. I mean, the from the is a, what's that called, a prepositional phrase?
Yeah, Yes, Representative Moore.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, you said that this thing replaces the entire amendment, but we still have, on the amendment itself, we still have section 18 through 22, which still stays the same, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, but you're replacing 9 through 18 because of 206.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
In other words, what you're saying is it's redundant.
Yeah, basically what happened if we had passed this whole bill without the amendment, then we would have conflicting RSAs on what we had done with 206, because, yeah.
Would they be conflicting, or would they just?
It
be
would,
saying
no,
the exact
because
same
it'd be two different sections of where we put it. So we didn't need that, because we did 206, so this amendment just does one thing, it just does exempting students from the assessment, statewide assessment, period. Allowing parents.
Representative Bertrand.
There's a question on, in the original section that we're replacing, I understand we're adding that parents or guardians can get the exemption, but we also, before it said it could be exempted pursuant to school district policy established under the RSA. Now that's been left out, so is that no longer a method, or
Well,
why is
that was
that gone?
the pursuant to the school district, the policy, which was what in the bill created that.
Ah, I see, okay,
Okay.
thank you, got it.
Further discussion? Yes, Representative Rainey.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. Does this absolutely preclude any local district from using the results of state assessment as part of graduation requirement?
How it would, it's a local issue.
Well, except if you have that as part of an expectation for graduation, let me just say, for instance, one school does, I know of, does a senior project. You don't do the senior project, it doesn't affect your grade, you can't get a diploma. But by the student choosing not to do this assessment, then if that's part of that school's graduation requirement, then obviously there has to be some changes. I just wonder, yeah, well, that was the question to begin with, so this would absolutely preclude a school in any way encumbering graduation with the state assessment. Is that clearly what we're doing?
I don't know of any school that does it.
Representative Sullivan.
Some states do use the state assessment as part of their graduation requirement. We don't in New Hampshire.
Well, we
And I
don't
don't know
officially as a state, but don't speak for all districts.
I don't know any district that does use the state assessment. Does anybody know the district that would?
I believe we look at the requirements, the number of credits you have to take, they look at the transcripts. If you satisfy that requirement, I wouldn't know why they would not graduate a student.
Since we're also pushing towards the SAT as a potential for level for the SAT, that students would want to take that anyways, as a measure towards their going to college, so it shouldn't be an issue.
So do I need to make a motion?
Representative Shaw.
Your amendment takes out local control. Because on line 27 of the original bill, under the, from 24 on, which is what this is, replacing this whole bill, now we're only getting your amendment. And line 27 says, is exempted pursuant to school district policy established under RSA 18611, so forth. Isn't that the parent?
No, because this bill, initial bill, created that RSA 161, 18611
Doesn't exist anymore.
in the beginning of that bill.
Right.
So by getting rid of that, we're not creating 18611.
I'm gonna throw another hammer in this thing. And RSA 193H2 states that schools shall ensure that all pupils are performing at the basic level or above on the statewide assessment. How's this bill react to that statute? Yeah. Representative Frazier.
Similarly, the bill we just passed on Tuesday, I think it was your bill, said we would not test in all grades 3 through 8, but in half of those grades do that new technique. We are, unless we change line 10 and leaving that in, then we have.
They would put the two together when they do it.
Well, the other bill.
That would change if the other changed, the other bill. Right now, we're talking about grade spans within grades 3 through 12. That's the Representative Moore.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat again what you just said just a few moments ago?
Yeah, there in statute, there's a sentence that says, schools shall ensure that all pupils are performing at the basic level or above on statewide assessment. That's referencing our state testing.
Right, so you're asking how's this going
How's
to
this-
affect that?
yeah.
We have a fundamental stinking problem here. They're being forced to take this test. That's what the commissioners put out. He put out an edict on this thing.
No, excuse me. No, this is resolved the Claremont decision. This is not having anything to do with the federal government.
Right, I know, the Claremont decision 1993, if I'm correct.
That, to ensure that all children have the opportunity for an adequate education.
Right.
School districts have to send in a narrative report, an input report, and a performance, and the performance deals with the statewide assessment. That's our own doing here in the state. Yes, Representative.
I think you just hit the nail on the head with opportunity, because I've spent a lot of time reading the Claremont decision lately because it's necessary. And it's opportunity, and that was the intention of the bill, was opportunity. Somehow that shifted into removing parental rights in a situation where a parent doesn't want their child to take the test, and that's what we need to rectify in this room today. But
Thank you. Representative Bershel.
The Speaker, President Sullivan, I think the answer, we're not discussing about rectifying that today, because if we pass this law, there's another law in the books that we're contravening by passing this. So if you want to rectify that, you have to attack the other law,
I
not
believe
pass
this-
this one.
isn't that the purpose of this?
There's another section which we.
Representative Cordelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The statute that you referenced, 193, whatever, that talks about all students, there is already in law, though, exemptions that are allowed.
That is correct.
So, you know, that, I think that the exemptions countermand the all provision in the other. Exemptions are allowed, so this is
I
just
just threw that
another.
out for.
Right.
for
So I think that there are exemptions allowed already, and this is basically just a parental choice exemption that we are putting in the statute.
Further discussion? No, we need to have a motion on the floor. I don't think we have a motion on the floor.
I make a motion that ought to pass on this amendment. The amendment number is 0661H.
Is there a second? Representative Adams. Representative Bowman, do you care to speak to that, or we just move on?
Move on.
Okay, so Representative Shaw, would you call the roll, please?
Representative Balcom,
Yes?
Representative Bone,
Yes.
Representative Cordelli,
Yes.
Representative Grenier,
Yes.
Representative Elliott,
Yes.
Representative Adams,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Representative Moore,
Yes.
Representative Osborne,
Yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Yes.
Representative Wolf,
Yes.
Representative Guile,
No.
Representative Shaw, no, Representative Gorman,
No.
Representative Frazier,
No,
Representative Schmidt,
No.
Representative Myler,
No.
Representative Rolo,
No.
Representative Keith,
No.
Representative Sharon,
No.
Representative Platt.
Yes.
Yeah, 16 is going to correct the grammar.
Okay,
What is the vote?
12 to 9.
Make a motion.
Yes, Representative Bowman.
Ought to pass as amendments, as amended.
Okay, we have a motion made by Representative Bowman, second by Representative Moore, for ought to pass as amended.
Took my motion.
Could we have it amended by Representative Frazier's wording?
Can we just change that little bit in there? No?
We got a motion on the table.
I tried, sorry.
Good. Prepositional phrase.
Oh, you figured that out. Congratulations. Representative Shaw.
I just wanna make a comment that I am totally in favor of, parents being allowed to opt out. My problem is the way this is written, I don't feel that it's written right. And that's why I objected to the amendment, and I think that it should be worked on. So maybe when this is brought to the floor, somebody might amend this or bring a floor amendment or something so that the language is clearer and the school district policy is also left in there, because I think that school district, it's more than just the parents, it's a school district policy established by the school district regarding parent opting out. So I think that there's a problem with the language, and that's why I object to it, and it's not because of the opting out.
Thank you very much, Representative. Representative.
Yeah, I would like to also say, normally I would support this, but what I've been reading about what school districts do to those children whose parents do not want them tested as an alternative activity, to me, is not acceptable. And so unless there is something in here that provides a constructive experience for that child, parent directed or school directed, I can't support the bill.
Representative Moore.
Yeah, Representative Shaw, what do you object to the wording and the language?
I would wanna discuss this right now.
Yeah.
This would take time to
Okay.
sit down and,
I'll be willing to work with, well, to come up with a floor amendment if we could.
A friendly one,
I'm
right?
typing it
a
right now.
friendly one,
A friendly amendment.
and
Yes.
incorporate what Mary just said too.
Good. Further, Representative Wolf.
I just have a question regarding the other clause that you mentioned. So if we pass this and it does conflict with another statute, what does that mean?
I don't think it really does conflict, because we have exemptions, and you can have exemptions for emergency medical situations where you're in the hospital in Boston, or you could have an exception within an emergency within the family where there's a death, or you could have a numerous, I could make a laundry list. And that is a determination that has to be made by administration, or in fact, the Commissioner of Education. So that is available. And I have not heard any district having a problem with allowing exemptions. In fact, in terms of providing alternative education or alternative programming, we do that in terms of opting out of certain aspects of various programs. We have that on the books already. And I've not heard any feedback that alternative program hasn't been provided in a healthy manner. Representative Rainer.
Yes, I agree with that, Mr. Chairman, but those exemptions are part of adopted school board policy. I understand, you have the law, then you have school board policy. This does not do it, and there's the difference.
The difference is that the exemptions in the other areas we're talking about, health and sexual education, are relative to course materials. This is not a course. We're talking about a statewide assessment, and assessment is not curriculum. Assessment is separate from, it assesses that curriculum. I think that for us to try to define alternative programming would be a mistake. I think that is for the parent to work with the school administrator and figure that out. And I don't believe there's anybody that's going to try to do something to torpedo that. Everybody's in the business to try to educate kids. Representative Gant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the sad reality is, of all the bills that we've worked on this year and next year, 5 of them may become actual law. And that's the sad reality, folks. So, just bear that in mind as we wrestle with these bills. And, I've been here for 90 years, and I can tell you, last year we produced 4 bills that actually made it all the way through the Senate committees of contents.
Usually the Senate is the rule.
Yeah, the Senate is proven. So.
And I sponsored several of those bills. Representative Moore.
Mr. Chairman, okay, so I want to get down to brass tacks here. This is very concerning to me. I'm not really sure where we're all at on this, but I have not heard anybody bring up the commissioner's report or her message to the superintendents of the school districts. That was concerning to me. I mean, that was bad. I mean, at the end, she basically said, no citizen should get in the way of the mandate by the state. So that's why we need this.
I think that's why we're passing this.
I think that, you know, whether that's the reason or not, I just believe
So
that exemptions are a good thing.
So I guess I'm wondering what, and with respect, you had mentioned Representative Shaw, you didn't want to get into the wording and everything. What's the problem?
Well, let
It's gonna take time.
Representative Shaw
What
work
I
that
mean
out
is-
with Representative Bowman.
Yeah, what could
Yeah,
maybe come up
we
with.
don't have time to go
It's
into
gonna take
that great discussion.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
The floor amendment that doesn't
It
replace
needs,
the bill.
it needs, you need to sit down and you have to be very careful about what you put in these bills. It can't be just, you know, it's gotta be worded absolutely correctly, and it's not something that we can do in 5 minutes.
Okay, we have a motion on the
I'll
floor.
pass that amendment.
We have a second already, don't we?
Yes,
So would you please read
it's,
the,
on and more. Representative Balcom,
Yes?
it's ought to pass with amendment. Representative Bowman,
Yes.
Representative Cordelli,
Yes.
Representative Grenier,
No.
Representative Elliott, Representative Adams,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yeah.
Representative Moore,
Yes.
Representative Osborne,
Yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Yes.
Representative Wolf,
Yes.
Representative Guile,
No.
Representative Shaw,
Come on, Rick, come on.
fix it. Not this time.
we still love you.
Representative Gorman,
No.
Representative Frazier,
No.
Representative Schmidt,
No.
Representative Myler,
No.
Representative Rolo,
No.
Representative Heath,
No.
Representative Sharon,
No.
Representative Ladd,
Yes.
11-10.
All right, folks, we're going on to the next bill. We'll put that on the consent calendar, right? 11-10. 11-10.
Somebody want to?
That's done.